Stearns.
And I'm Glenn Stearns.
And this is Grit Happens. Join us as we engage in candid conversations with some of the most successful people in every field and from every walk of life, all with the common thread of grit and a goal of not just surviving, but thriving.
And we hope that the show will help you feel informed, energized, and especially inspired.
So let's get started. This is Grit Happens. We're back for another episode of Grit Happens.
How y'all doing out there?
Well, they can't answer, but I'm sure they're doing amazing because they're here. They've tuned in. They're ready to hear some good, gritty stories because that's what we talk about on here.
That's right.
Gritty stories. How are you feeling?
Well, I was feeling good until you just put me down in front of all 4 of our customers out there.
They're not customers. It is an audience, and then we have a billion. So where's this negative thinking coming from?
Where is it?
You talk about none of that in your book. It's all about positivity.
That's right.
It's about abundance mindset, not scarcity mindset. Do you want to start over?
No, I don't want to start over. I love how this is going. But I am really excited that we have an amazing guest that we're going to be able to highlight.
A dear friend, someone who we've known from practically the beginning of our relationship.
Actually,
that's a long
very,
time,
very close to the beginning.
Years, and you two have something in common. You both are authors. You wrote a book. She wrote a book, and I'm very excited to talk today to Donna Schuller about the book that she did not want to write, but did anyway. Fearless Women Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. I got to bring her on. Donna Schuller, welcome to Grit Happens.
Hi, Donna.
Hey, hi. And I've got secrets about you guys, so I'll try to behave, but you like gritty stuff. But yeah, I've known these two since the beginning. And I do have some gritty stories in my book too. You might not know that since I'm a pastor, but you know, I wasn't always so perfect when I was growing up. So there's some stuff in there. My poor mom. That's all I can say.
Poor mom. I feel like my daughter's going to say that one day. My poor mom.
I know how you feel, Donna.
She will. I know you do, Glenn.
Writing the book, my book, Integrity, also same thing coming out. And you get to a place where you go, do I really want to expose that? And you go, but then that's part of life. Might as well put it all out there. Why not?
Well, I think the beauty of you, Donna, the beauty of you and Glenn, for that matter, if I can compare you for a moment, is that there's a real vulnerability in your approach to life. And I think that's what ingratiates people towards you, is that you're not afraid to be honest, open, vulnerable, real, expose your flaws, talk about your fears. And I think when you lead, like Glenn always says, when you lead with my flaws, it disarms people. Don't you
exactly
think?
Get closer.
I totally agree. If you know your speaker is real and honest and, like you said, kind of gritty and embraces their past and isn't embarrassed by it, but uses it for good, for the future, for the present or future, then you can relate more. I know in my life, if I've been listening to somebody who appears to be perfect in every way, I just shut down. I close off. I'm like, yeah, you bet. You bet.
Don't
Nobody's
you find
perfect.
that, even though and I think what is happening in the world, and correct me if you disagree, I feel like social media encourages that. Let's lead with being perfect. So everybody looks perfect. They've got the perfect world, the perfect life, the perfect clothes. Everything is right. It's perfectly edited, the perfect filter. And I hope that the kids in our young society are recognizing the value of leading with your flaws and talking about where you're vulnerable. And I hope your books both illustrate that. What do you think?
Well, I actually have one of my short stories. There's 40 short stories in here. One of them says, fearless women are real. And I talk exactly about this issue that, we all, obviously we put our best foot forward normally on social media, but life isn't always like that. And I actually go on to say that there's nothing wrong with, we color our hair, we wear makeup if we're women, hopefully, never mind, we won't go down that road right now. But but we do all kinds of things to make ourselves look better. And that's all good stuff. We buy nice clothing, we have beautiful shoes, we get our nails done, all good stuff. But if the reason we're doing that is to cover up some inside work that needs to be done, that's when there's a problem. That's when there's an issue. That's when the kind of the not so real persona of who we are comes forward if we're doing things for the wrong reason. So we just have to make sure we do things for the right reason to the best of our ability. So
yeah, we
I agree.
one time we talked on this show before about someone that reached out to us and said kind of F you and your perfect lives. They watched our Facebook, and we reached back out and said, if there was a Facebook page that was for all the negative things,
They should call it on your Facebook.
I like that. I would love to be on there.
The anti-Facebook, the on your Facebook.
But we would have a pretty big Facebook with all the negative ones as well. I mean, life isn't perfect, and there are too many places where we get to highlight the positive things, but you tend to leave out the negative ones, and
that's why you write a book.
Yeah.
That's why you write a book, and you get real, and you get gritty. You talk about let's talk a little bit about going there. Speaking of grit, and you talk in the beginning, you're very vulnerable about, you lost your father when you were very young, and that really shaped your life and prepared you in some ways for things and crises and things that happened. Go a little bit into your own gritty story and talk about that.
Sure. I grew up in a family that was, we weren't intact. Okay. So my mom and dad got divorced the first time when my brother was 2 and I was 5. And then my brother and I, ended up living with my dad, actually. And, that many years ago, without divulging, I don't actually care if people know. I'm in my 60s. I'm actually my late 60s now. I'm darn proud of it.
Looking hot.
So it's a lot. So thank you. So it was a long time ago. I lived with my dad for a year. My dad was an airline pilot. We lived up by LAX. And I was there with my dad until my parents got remarried when I was 8. And my brother was, I was 8. We were 8 and 5 when we lived with my dad. They got remarried when I was 9. And then we moved to Laguna Beach. And then they got separated / divorced again. And then my dad died in a car accident when I was 13. My brother was 10. So here's the thing about me. I actually, back in those days, first of all, nobody went to counseling. Very few people went to counseling. It wasn't something, especially children. I don't think there was ever a thought to, hey, Donna and Jeff's my brother, probably need some counseling. Looking back in my junior high years, because I was in 7th grade when my dad died, I was just a mess. I was just a mess through junior high, high school. I hid it really well. I was very popular, attractive girl, and hung with the right crowd. But I was hurting so bad, and I was just running as far away from God, as far away from anything real at that time. And actually, I drank quite a lot when I was a young teenager. And it began at my mom's second wedding, which took place 2 weeks after my dad's funeral.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's a lot to process at a young age.
It's a lot to process. But, fast forward to when I met Robert when I was 27, when he said to me, oh, wow, you lost your dad when you were 13. That must have been really difficult for you. My answer was, oh, no, it's fine. It was fine. So it took me, I did. So talk about denial. So it wasn't until I had my own children, Anthony and Christina were about the same age that I was when my parents first got divorced, is when my world just came crashing down. I was about 35 years old, and I finally grieved the loss of my dad. And it was a tough time, but I got through it. I got through it by realizing, no, it's a big deal. You got to feel your pain. And right, Glenn, there's a happy medium to being positive and being in denial. So that's what the balance I try to strike.
I think you find these big events in our lives that really reshape us and put us on a track. A lot of times we might start down the wrong track because we are in denial, or, we don't know how to process it. And if we're fortunate enough, and I can give you a million examples, yours one, my dad was another, myself, that you can take that and this adversity and you can use it as rocket fuel to really, once you finally realize, okay, I'm in a place of acceptance. Now, what am I going to do moving forward in anything? because we can't go backwards,
So true.
right? We can only go forwards. And once you get there, while yeah, it was a terrible thing that happened,
But it
and
didn't kill you. And that whole adage, what doesn't kill you makes you
stronger.
stronger. I think that's so
Absolutely.
apropos.
Absolutely.
It just
I
takes
know
some people more time than others.
exactly. I know for me, I mean, first of all, I agree 100%. For me, I look back at what happened to me through my life, and it's just made me so much more effective as a wife to Robert. You know, I married into this huge ministry and was like, whoa, you know, what's going on here? But as the years went by, and I've been married almost 39 years, so I've been in this ministry for many years now, a long time. But I realized that all of those things have helped me become such a much more sensitive person. I'm not afraid to talk to the people in our church that have lost loved ones. You know, sometimes when you lose somebody, people don't know what to say, right? So they just kind of ignore it. I'm comfortable hitting that subject just head on. Same with divorce. Same with any tragedy, really. I don't have a problem with just coming right out, talking to a person, asking, you know, if they need prayer, if they need help. What do you need? This is a really difficult time for you. And I know that's because of my past and what I've been through.
So, you know, Donna, for those that maybe don't know, just to give to go backwards a little bit, you married Dr. Robert Schuller. Okay.
Yep.
His
and
father,
he married you. He married you.
Yeah,
he married us. Exactly. And his father had founded the Crystal Cathedral.
Right.
And the Hour of Power, which went all over the world. So,
exactly.
You know, that focus on your family and you was huge, was a very, very, very big, you know, set of eyes on you guys, and a lot of pressure.
Social media before social media even existed.
Really? Thank God. Right. I'm glad it didn't exist when I was a teenager. That's all I can say, because I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now. I'm sure we can all say that, right? But yes, it was a big deal. My husband, you know, I married into this huge family of basically, I mean, Christian celebrities, if you will. I hate that word. But at one point, my father-in-law was like the most popular person in all of Orange County. I wasn't in the scene at that point, but like through the late 70s and early 80s, I married Robert in 84. But he was a big deal, and really had a strong impact on so many lives. He was just a great man, super smart man, super positive man. But he did something. He was the very first one that took what Dr. Norman Vincent Peale had done, and that is, he was the first one in Southern California and in sort of in, I guess, in his generation, to take what Dr. Peale had done, and that is to take psychology, positive psychology, and blend it with mainline Christianity. And today we know a lot of pastors are very positive. They talk about the fact that God wants you to succeed. You know, he wants the best for you. He wants you to be happy. But that's, you know, that didn't really exist before my father-in-law and Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, which was his predecessor. Before they brought that to the forefront, it was more negativity and, you know,
fear-based,
pay your penance, and fear-based,
hellfire,
exactly. And you know, there's a place to be, you know, admonished for sometimes, but you know, people, right? We can affect a lot more people for good, for positive, and approach things with love instead of fear.
Yeah, he absolutely changed the narrative, and
he did.
And your family, I mean, you know, the presence it has had in Orange County, and again, all over the world, really was so huge. And you know, so you didn't, again, just get to live a regular life. You know, you were under the microscope for a long time, and you know, then you come out, and I know Mindy's been a part of your Fearless Woman group.
Fearless women. Yeah, we can segue into talking a little bit about that. I mean, you guys have done the grit you've talked about with your father, and then going on in your flight attendant days, even you talk about that, and being hijacked. You talk about opening a church in the middle of
You just
COVID.
kind of said that like it's like everybody's been hijacked. You know,
Well,
like,
I don't want. I want someone to read the book because there's
Yeah.
stories
I know,
here.
yes,
Why don't you
yes.
expand a little bit on? Can we
Thank
just
you.
like for a second? That was kind of a big deal. You take, like what my childhood experience, and then it prepared me for these crises as I got older.
I believe it.
You were hijacked. You're on a plane that was hijacked.
Exactly.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah, I was barely 24 years old. I happened to be what we used to call the first flight attendant, which is the lead flight attendant on this particular flight, just because that's what I bid for. And I was taking off out of Miami. There was actually, backing up a bit, there had been a whole rash of hijackings at that point from from the US, Miami specifically, for the Cuban refugees who wanted to go home. They came to Miami. They said, nope, changed my mind. And they were hijacking planes. Like, you can look it up, like once a week.
Wow.
So so the attempted hijacking that I was part of was one of the very last ones, because the US government finally just came down hard. In fact, a whole nother story. I spent a couple of weeks in federal court in Miami as a 24-year-old. That was an interesting thing. So the guy was prosecuted, and I think he got 35 years. I don't know whatever happened to him, but yeah, it was on takeoff out of Miami. And I was, as flight attendants often do on the jump seat during takeoff, I was talking to the guy next to me who happened to speak fluent Spanish. I speak Spanish now, not fluently, pretty good. But at that time I knew nothing, like literally like agua, water, and taco, and probably cerveza for sure. I knew tequila. But back then I didn't know too much. And so this guy came up right on ascent. I mean, we were steep. We had just taken off, and there's this guy coming up. And of course, as flight attendants usually do, we're playing around. And, these are things you don't forget, the details. The buddy on my jump seat, right, who was the galley person, was drawing like a hand. And we were doing that. Hello. Have you ever done that? You read a little face and lips. And we're going, hello, how are you? And we look up and we go, who is this jerk coming up on takeoff? Like, what? So all of a sudden, this guy comes up, and suddenly I see that he's really angry, right? I can't understand what he's saying, but he's just going off. And my buddy on the jump seat, who's on this side of me, my left, says, momento, just a minute. He goes, by the way, we're being hijacked, and goes back to talking to him in Spanish. So I'm sitting there and I go, oh, that's what I thought. And for some reason, I knew, my intuition told me this guy was threatening. And from there, it was pretty amazing story, which like,
what do you want? No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, what do you want? What's up? No, but we have a whole protocol. Yeah, I can tell you, flight attendants and pilot, they're very, very well trained in emergency procedures and anything like this.
What did you do?
I follow protocol, and literally, like when you're in an emergency like that, you just go back to your training. And I have to say, I have a lot of respect for flight attendants. I only flew all through my 20s. I quit when I was 28. I flew from the time I was 21 to 28, which I loved. I mean, I flew in the best days. We used to have 3-day layovers in Honolulu, a week in Guam. I mean, what were they thinking, right?
Oh, wow.
But the flight attendants are so well trained in emergency procedures that there's no time to be scared. There's no time to think about. You just act. Exactly. The fear came later when the FBI met the plane. And I remember looking down, and both of my arms were just shaking, like out of control, shaking, like, what? Stop. What are you doing? Right. But it's, and going back to what, the kind of my past and the way I was brought up, I believe that I'm really good in crises. In fact, at one time I wanted to be a crisis counselor. I wouldn't be a good counselor for somebody that repetitively comes in week after week. That takes a very special kind of patience to be that kind of a counselor, but I'm really good at crisis management, like awesome. And I think it's because I went through a lot of crisis as a young person. And like you said, not everybody is an attempted hijack.
No, I'm still wanting to know like what you did. I am like, I know you're like into the details.
No, I don't want to know, because they got to read the book.
No,
well, those details aren't outlined in the book.
No, they're not in the book. That. I can tell you the end of the story. The pilot, I'll still remember his name, was Al Burrell. The captain finally got so fed up because we're following all this protocol and everything that's right out of the manual. And I'm diving into the cockpit because I'm a female. They always say the female they used to tell you to put the skirt. This is horribly like inappropriate today, very politically incorrect, but they always taught us to put the skirt in between the guys because it would be disarming psychologically. So I was doing okay, I got to get in here. Oh, now he's out here. Now I got to go to here. So I was doing all that. Finally, Al Burrell, the captain, he was this buff guy, this super so I was 24. He was really old. He was like 42. And to me, that was old, right? But I remember he was very muscular. He finally goes, blankety, blankety, blank. No, blankety, blankety, blank. Hijacker's going to hijack my plane. I'll still remember it. He unsnapped he took his shoulder harnesses off. He hopped out. He went outside because we had the cockpit door open at that time. Beat the living crud out of the guy. Beat the crud out of him. And it was on a 727 where we used to, you'd get on the plane and there'd be a coat closet there. So it was kind of behind, it was by the main cabin door, kind of tucked in behind the coat closet. So the passengers in first class couldn't see, they could hear. I saw. And then the flight we didn't have one single empty seat. So I actually sat on the perpetrator in the galley. He was tied up. We tied him up with headsets. These are the days when we had plastic headsets. They were tubes that plugged in. They were
I remember the tubes.
Okay, do you remember those? Okay.
Yes, I do.
They were bright orange on Continental Airlines in those years.
Oh my
and
God.
We tied him up and I sat on him. And I remember this, and I'm not giving anything away in the book. I'm just telling you it's an interesting book because I have some good stories. I sat on him, and at that point, he was begging me for a glass of water. And like I said, I knew the word for water, and I remember I looked at him and I said, no. I just kept saying no. So
no agua, no agua.
No, absolutely no.
Wow.
So
that is quite a story.
So
life is interesting.
Life is interesting. And we've been around you guys to know a lot of very interesting times in your life. Mm-hmm. One of them was COVID, right? Here you are. And, the governor has said, okay,
churches be gone. Everyone shut down.
It's non-essential. And
liquor stores open, but
churches, liquor stores, strip clubs, bowling alleys.
Tell us a little bit about how you pivoted during.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think it's one of the things that's interesting to remember, Glenn, is that we didn't have a church at that time. We were traveling the globe. We were working with the Global Peace Foundation. We were doing ministry out of California and out of the United States for the most part. And when COVID happened, of course, our travels came screeching to a halt. And then my husband, who had a dad who started a church in a drive-in theater, right, said, hey, you know what these people ought to do? All these people have churches, all these pastors, and we're at the age we mentor people, right? We mentor a lot of younger pastors. Yeah. He called up everybody he knew and said, this is what you do. I mean, even our own son, Bobby, we go, no, don't close your church. Just move out to the parking lot. Just move out. Take your sound equipment. All you got to do is buy this little radio transmitter and you can have people listen through the FM radio. Not one single person would do it. Not one single person. And we know why, because, obviously a lot of people don't own their own land. A lot of churches don't own their own land. Even if they do, they've got insurance companies, right, that are threatening, and there's all this liability. And people, so guess what? People were fearful. So Robert looked at me and said, I got to do something. We got to do this. And I'm like, we got to do this? I mean, we're semi-retired. Really? We're going to do this? We don't have staff. We don't have a building. We don't have equipment. We have nothing because we've been traveling the world doing our ministry in a whole different way. So he goes, yep, I'm going online. I know what to do. So as he was ordering this FM transmitter, we were also on the phone because we've been in Orange County a long time, right? Just like you guys, we have lots of great friends. We start calling everybody we know that owns property, that owns big property at all the malls. Nope, they couldn't let us use their parking lots because of the liability, because of the lease agreements with the other lessees. Even though the lessees were not using their parking lots, they were empty, right? Southwest Plaza. I mean, you can name it. You know the area. So we're going, what are we going to do? Finally, Stephanie Argyros, a mutual friend, said, I think we probably have a parking lot. Let me get you in touch with the right staff member. And they found us an old, one of their older parking lots in an older office complex. You guys know, you were there at least once.
We did. We attended.
Yeah.
It was fabulous.
And thanks to the Argyros family, we were able to stay there. We thought we were only going to be there a few weeks because we thought it was
a long
like
time. How long were you
to
guys
flatten the curve. We were there until we got the call that said, we love you guys. We have a business to run here. And we were actually starting to tick people off because there was one psychologist in particular that had an office there, and she met with clients on Sunday morning.
Oh, shoot.
She was going in, she'd pull up and go, I remember going, hi, good morning. And she'd say, you're playing that music again? You're playing that music again? And just shake her head. So I'm pretty sure because of her, we had to leave, which is great. It was all in God's plan.
It went well.
Yep. Then we went to Newport Dunes.
Let's talk about.
Yep. But
I want to talk about how Fearless Women was formed during COVID too. You started this thing, and it's a talk. I mean, okay, so let's just before we.
Sure.
I don't want to go without talking about this book. It's a 40-day practice in living fearlessly, but it really was born from a group you started of women. Fearless Women, every twice a month on Thursdays, but you started in COVID and you weren't sure. Like, this is one thing a lot of people think about. I want to do something, and fear gets in the way, and they're just, what do I do? What if nobody likes it? What if nobody wants it? And you kind of had those fears when you did it. Like, what if nobody's interested? And what happened? Tell me how it happened.
Well, it was coincidental, literally, that it started in March of 2020. I had planned it and decided to do it in November 2019. I said, okay, I'm doing this. And that was after 3 years of just saying, I'm not going to do this. Nope. Like you said, will anybody come? I don't know. We were living in Mexico half the time then. And I'm like, we don't have a facility. I don't have the finances to make this happen. I had every excuse in the world, but I couldn't let go of it. And it's like, this book is a lot about doing the right thing, doing the thing that you have to do, even when it's difficult, even when part of your mind's going, don't do this. No, you can't do this. And then your positive side's going, yeah, they're arguing with the negative committee in your head. I like to call it the negative committee. So finally, I decided November 19th, I'm going to do this. Yep, going to do this. I found a building. I was going to actually meet at the American Legion in Laguna Beach. And never ended up meeting there because they closed it down, and ended up on Zoom for a couple of weeks, and then ended up at our friends. And now, for many years now, it's been over 3 years, but for 3 years, I think I've been meeting at Shannon's house for 3 years, twice a month on Thursdays.
Wonderful. I've been able to go to these.
I love these meetings. I love it when you come.
You know what? I would say, it says Fearless Women transform negative emotions into positive realities. And I think that's kind of what we do in the meetings. You got to go through these different courses. You have a stop, think, break into groups. We talk about things in life, and it's obviously it's a spiritual book about your faith. And
very much so.
Robert wrote a beautiful foreword here about it, and he just challenges you. He's just, if you take 40 days, a 40-day journey to overcome fear and live in faith. And it can transform your attitude, nourish your soul, and empower your mind. So it's something you want to pick up a copy of this. It's available on Amazon.
Yes, it is.
I think what really makes a woman fearless, Donna? What is it?
Well, it's kind of expanding on what I already said a little bit earlier, and that is that what makes you fearless is not being afraid, but it's about breaking through the fear. It's about doing what you got to do, because deep in your gut you got to do it, even if you're scared, even if you go, no one will come, or I don't have the means to make this happen, or I don't have a facility. If you decide to say yes, and I call it saying yes to God, then those doors, if it's something worthwhile, if it's something not just coming from your ego only, but if it's something that's going to better the world, it's going to better people around you, then it will happen. But you first have to make the decision to say yes, even when it's uncomfortable. That's what I tell our
kids that all the time. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to do it. I said, listen, say yes, and then figure it out later, right? Like,
exactly.
Just at least keep the door open, so then you can arrange, because if it's something of importance and priority, then you will figure out how to make it happen. But don't close the door before you've even begun to fight, and a lot of us do that. We just want to, kind of limit ourselves.
The negative committee. I like that you
That's exactly. Oh, there's just that negative. They're so loud. That negative committee can be so loud. And usually we're the chairman of the board in that negative committee. We are, right? The other voices aren't so loud.
I love what you did. I loved it. I love too. It's not like Donna Schuller is a fearless woman and wrote this fearless book, and you can be fearless. You had a lot of fears writing this. You were not going to do it. Georgiana, one of our friends, talked you.
I did not want to do it. Yeah, exactly.
And you did it. And now you have this beautiful book with beautiful stories and anecdotes and a really beautiful 40-day practice for anyone who wants to put a little faith and encouragement and inspiration in their lives. I am very excited. I can't wait for you to sign my book at our next meeting.
I can't wait either.
And do it anyway.
Yeah, feel the fear. Do it anyway. Book I read growing up from Susan Jeffers. So you are joining a very esteemed group of women authors in conquering your fear and transforming your life. So I'm very excited for you, Donna.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate you guys. I feel comfortable being with you, and we have to have you back on our podcast soon. It's been a long time.
Let's do it.
But you know what, Donna? I think that this is, there's a lot of people that watch our show. I mean, all 12 of them.
Yeah.
We
stop.
12.
No.
Okay.
Stop.
The billion.
But a lot of, but I'm joking.
I know somebody just came to our church because they heard Robert on your program. Kelly Roberts.
There you go. But in all honesty, there are a lot of people out there that are afraid of what's the first step? What do I do? And it's obvious that when you see other people like yourself who have said, I'm going to feel the fear and do it anyways. I'm going to go off and say yes. And I'm going to, attempt to get out of my comfort zone. And when you do that, you can be amazed at the beauty and the pride you can feel about changing your life, so I applaud you.
You can be a fearless woman too. I think we all have it in us to be a fearless woman or man.
Absolutely. Or men too. Yep. Just got to be fearless, a fearless person.
You just got to be fearless, Donna.
And if people go out there and buy your book, I hope they do. There's a wonderful quote on the back.
Yes, from a woman sitting next to you. Real pretty lady.
Stearns. What? Oh, I can write. I've written a book. I mean, a book cover. I mean, a paragraph on a book.
You've done
Donna,
plenty.
we love you. Thank you so much for joining us. Where can people follow you? Where can they find you? On Instagram? Where do people
find
go?
me. Yes, they can find me. I have a website that I actually just reactivated. It's actually a nice website. I just haven't visited it since we started the church, but it's my name, Donna Schuller, DonnaSchuller.com, DonnaSchuller.com. It's healthyfamilyhappylife.com, but DonnaSchuller.com will get you there too.
Love it. Thank you, Donna. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Great Happens. See you next time.
Thank you. Please.
See, I sure will. Okay.
Love you.
Thanks. Love you too. See you guys soon. See you real soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.